Hi everyone, this is Leonie from My Passion for Paper. Today I would like to show you a mini album that I created. I created this album for Anna, who is afallas72 here on YouTube. We decided to do a one-on-one swap, and this is what I came up with. For the mini album I used the Prima Nature Garden paper collection, and I will show you the binding first. I used some stretchy lace for the binding, and here I have a Tim Holtz pin that says Memoirs, and I created this little charm here, and I used a lot of fibers, and here as well. And this is the front page. I stitched all the pages, I hand stitched all the pages. I used my paper piercing tool and I pierced some holes, and then I hand stitched all the way around. I did that on every page. This album, I created this album out of surreal boxes, and I drew my own template, and I painted the pages first with black acrylic paint, and then I went over it with some silver acrylic paint and some gesso along the edges. So here we have the dimensional dress form again. I really love these dress forms, and Miranda, who is Miss Liberty 25, has a tutorial on how to create your own dimensional dress form, so I will put the link to her tutorial in the description box below. And I adhered a little charm here, and I created some roses, and here I have a butterfly. I stamped one on acetate first with my Kaisercraft stamp, and then I have a cardstock and a lace butterfly and a Martha Stewart butterfly on top. And to create this brick wall, I used a technique that Sa Crafter shows in one of her videos. She has a tutorial. I didn't have the Crafters Workshop, so I was very happy that Sa uploaded the tutorial on how to create your own mask. So I'll put the link to her tutorial in the description box below as well. And here I have a photo frame, and I went over it with some gesso. And here I have some homemade roses in different sizes. And I created these foil tape leaves with my Nelly Snellen punches, and I went over it with some black acrylic paint. And I stamped this Tim Holtz clock on some acetate, and I adhered it to the paper, and she can take this out and use it as a template to place her picture here if she likes. So that's the front side of the mini album. And for the closure I created some charms. I used this closure from a necklace that I had, and I created some charms. And let me open it up. And here we have the first page. I stitched the edges again, and I used a paper doily that I distressed with my Black Soot Distress ink. Here's a Martha Stewart butterfly, and I didn't want to cover up the fairy. I made some small rosebuds, and I created these flowers with my EK Success Punch, and I made a bead spray. And I created this flower a long time ago, and I was inspired by Leanne, who is Lovely Scrappin here on YouTube. She uploaded a tutorial on how to create these flowers, so I will put the link to her tutorial in the description box below. So that's the first page. The second one looks like this. And I created a pocket out of acetate, and here I have some vintage lace and some white flatbed pearl trim that I purchased from Sa Crafters last year. And here as well, and some more vintage lace. And I created this little envelope with this little tag inside. This is a Prima butterfly stamp. And here I have some nature garden flowers. And this big gardenia I had in my stash for a long time. And the pocket holds this little book. And I was inspired to create this book by Leanne. She created a mini album for her sister's wedding. And she incorporated this in the album, and she shared the link to Kathy Orta's tutorial how to create this one. So I will put the link in the description box below as well. And it unfolds like this. And I created these little tags with my magnolia die. And I stamped the back side of all the tags as well. And here I used a Martha Stewart punch, and this opens like this and like this, so lots of room for pictures or journaling. And this is what the page looks like without the booklet. And the next page looks like this. And let me see. Here I have a doily in the background that I purchased from a flea market last summer. And I used some fibers behind the flower. And I created this big flower. For the fibers I was inspired by Karen, who is JB Lady Scrapper 48 here on YouTube. And she was inspired by Olga, Matte Stamper 64. And I made another bead spray here with some cherry blossoms that I colored myself. They were all white. I have some Martha Stewart butterflies. And here I have another cherry blossom and some rosebuds. I used a Tim Holtz birdcage die, and I created a little book. It closes with a magnet. Like this. And here is the next page. I will show you, give you an overview first. Here I have two crochet flowers that I made. This flower is from a trim that I had in my stash. And I stamped this bird on acetate. It's a Kaisercraft stamp. And another Martha Stewart butterfly. And I created a pocket. This is some crochet trim that I had in my stash. And some small flat black pearl trim from Carla S001. And here on top, oops, I have to turn it this way, I'm sorry. I have a black crochet flower that I made. And another flower from the trim I had in my stash. And I created this small rosebud out of book paper. And I have, oops, I have two tags inside the pocket. For this one I used a Prima note card as a template. And I adhered a little butterfly. And this is the other tag. And when I punched out a butterfly with my Martha Stewart punch, and I used it as a mask. And I went over it with silver acrylic paint. So that's what the page looks like without the tag. Without the tags, I'm sorry. And here we have the next page. And let me see. I created these two roses. This is one that I created out of vellum. And I have some cherry blossoms here. And some black bling. And here we have some Martha Stewart butterflies. This is a paper doily that I adhered to some acetate. And I adhered it along the edge first, and then I hand stitched the edges. Here I have a crochet doily that I made, and a flower that I created out of baby blue lace with a Prima Nature Garden flower on top, and I adhered this charm, and the pocket holds this envelope that I created. And inside is a little booklet that I stamped. Oops. And I drew some lines for some journaling. So that's that page. Here we have the next page. And here is a crochet doily that I made, and some paper roses from Carla S001, and a flatback pearl from Sa Crafters. And I created another pocket here, and here I crochet some trim, and this is a paper doily flower. Juliana, who is I Love Vintage Crap, has a tutorial on how to create your paper doily flower, so I will put the link to her tutorial in the description box below as well. And here I have a doily that I purchased at the Salvation Army, and this is a ribbon buckle from Wild Orchid Crafts and the flatback pearl from Sa Crafters. And I created this swirl with my magnolia dye, and I went over it with silver acrylic paint. I created these tiny flowers with my EK Success Punch, and in the pocket I have 2 tags. I used my Spellbinders die to create this tag, and I stamped it and went over it with some gesso. For this one I used my Spellbinders dies as well, and I did some doodling around the edges. This is a Kaisercraft stamp, and here on the back side this is a Marianne design stamp. It's from a Dutch company, and I really love this stamp. I use it a lot in my mini albums. So this is what the page looks like, and here I used a Crafter's Workshop mask and some gesso, and here's the next page. With another pocket and some stitching. Here I have some Martha Stewart butterflies, and here I have some rosebuds. I didn't create these ones myself. I created this rose out of vellum, and these are some cherry blossoms from my stash that I colored myself. And here I have some fabric flowers from my stash and a little butterfly. And here's a Tim Holtz numeral plaquette, I believe it's called, and a pin nib here. This crochet trim I had in my stash, and this is some white flatback pearl trim that I purchased from Sa Crafters last year, I believe. And here I have some more homemade roses. These two are made out of vellum as well, and these two are made out of book paper. And I saved the stems of the cherry blossoms, and I colored them black with my marker, and then I curled them and I adhered some pearls. And here's the tag. I covered some black cardstock with foil tape, and I went over it with black acrylic paint. And here I went over it with gesso and some speckling. This is a flower from the Prima Nature Garden collection. And here we have the last page. And I created this box pleated trim myself. And here are some Martha Stewart leaves. This is a baby pink crochet flower that I made, and some more roses that I created out of cardstock and book paper. This is a flower that I made out of napkins, and I colored it with my homemade glimmer mist. And this is a large rosebud that I created, and another Martha Stewart butterfly. These corners I created with my Spellbinders die. And this is an accordion pocket, so it opens like this. And I created it out of envelopes. I will hold it like this so you can see it better. You can have a better look. And each pocket has a tag. I won't take them all out, but I will show you this one. And I stamped these Prima butterflies with gesso. So that's that page, and this is the back side of the mini album. I really love this paper, and I signed it. So that's my mini album, and I really hope you like it, Anna. I had a lot of fun creating this for you, and thank you so much for doing this swap with me, and I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.